Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Pointy Not Sharp. Today we're taking a look at the Chinese Type 87 experimental bayonet. The full name really is a Type 87 multi-purpose bayonet, and they're referred to as the QNL 87 within Chinese service, although they were only ever a trials bayonet in Chinese service, but they were adopted elsewhere. Now, these were made to fit the 5.8mm QBZ 87 light rifle family. So there's a couple of different weapons, but as I said, it was only a trial, so there weren't too many. And they're developed and manufactured by the China North Industrial Company, or RINCO, and they were produced in 1987. Well, a few thousand of the originals were produced in 1987, but production has continued since then. So we'll jump into the history of how this came about, and I can't say why it didn't go anywhere because it's absolutely fantastic, but discuss what we can. So in the 1970s, China was using the Type 56 rifle, and that had a attached folding bayonet. And at the time, they were experimenting with a new caliber and a new rifle. So like other countries, they were seeing that small bore might be the way to go. So the US were adopting 5.56. Russia were thinking about 5.45. And China were surprisingly keeping up, and they were looking at their own small bore rifle caliber as well. So first they wanted the caliber, then the rifle to follow. So they somehow went the other way and came up with the Type 81, which was the new rifle they wanted, but still in 7.62 by 3.9, and that had a bayonet similar to this in that the handle was similar. It has very much a AKM Type 2 handle and pommel, but the blade didn't have any tools on it at all. It was just a plain blade with two fullers running down, and then the scabbard was just plain as well. There was just no attachments, no accessories with it. So in 1987, they had the further trial for the new and improved version of that rifle in the new caliber. And with it, they had their first ever multi-purpose bayonet, which is what we have here. Now, for whatever reason, the bayonet and rifle didn't go through, they weren't adopted, and it wasn't until a couple of years later in 1995 when they adopted the Type 95 bayonet and rifle that they actually adopted that new caliber. So the Type 95, they didn't use this style of bayonet. They actually copied the US with their M9 bayonet, and they came up with their QBZ or Type 95 bayonet. Those things are pretty cool. So there are only a very small number of these made. No idea how many are in the trial. I've heard reference to a couple of thousand, and that wouldn't surprise me. China's a big place. But again, I don't have any credible references to how many originals were made. Now, since the trial, China has continued to produce them commercially, and like right now, you can buy these on eBay, and that's where I got this one. They're pretty cool. So people refer to them as reproductions, but considering they're coming or appear to be coming from the same factory, I would say they are a commercial variant of a trials bayonet, not a reproduction of a trials bayonet. Now, surprisingly, this bayonet was actually adopted by Algeria. So I don't know exactly how this came about, but in 1989, Algeria produced their own version of the AK and adopted this style of bayonet with it. And at first I thought possibly they were being supplied by China because the blade is quite interesting. There's a lot of interesting machining processes that go into this. It's not the simplest of blades to make, so I thought surely they wouldn't go to the trouble of making their own tooling to make something like this. They would just buy them cheap from China. But having a closer look at an example online next to a proper Chinese one, you can see there's a lot of differences in the machining and the quality, and they're clearly made in different factories. So Algeria make this bayonet, although they call it the Model 89, and I'm desperately trying to get my hands on one of those. I'm actually reaching out to a couple of gun stores in Algeria and trying to have a chat and see if anyone has any and see if I can get my hands on any, because I think they're really neat. The way you spot the Algerian ones, by the way, is the handle's a bit different. The You can see tool marks longitudinally along the blade. Just the machining is nowhere near as nice like down here where it's nice and flush on the opposite of the wire cutter. He's got a big weld mark, and they also have like electro penciled serial numbers on them, and they're always rougher than what you see here, but I've only seen the one example. Now the Type 87 here was China's first multifunctional combat aid, or that's what they call it, a multifunctional combat aid. And then obviously they went to the QBZ 95 that they're using today, and I'm going to get my hands on one of those because I think they're neat. All that aside, I'll jump into the construction. Actually, before I do, I'll show you the configuration that I got this in originally. When I first got this bayonet, it was absolutely coated in cosmoline, so it's all over the blade, as you can see. And the big problem I had was it was absolutely caked into the scabbard. So cleaning off the blade isn't too much of an issue, just a bit of hot soapy water gets that off pretty easy. But I don't like my chances of ever getting it out of the scabbard. So now that all the cosmoline's been cleaned off, there's still like a bit of a residue on it. There's a bit of a yellowing along the blade that hasn't come out. I assume that's oil that's, or cosmoline or grease or whatever it is that's seeped into the metal and it'll slowly come out, and I'll have a crack at getting that out. But overall, not too bad. There's still all the cosmoline within the scabbard. I can only really wipe it off the mouth, so I haven't put it back in the scabbard, and as soon as I do, it's going to come out dirty. Now in China, they referred to this as a combination knife, hammer, bayonet. So knife, obviously we've got our knife blade, but the hammer, I assume they mean the solid heavy metal pommel on the base being used to hammer things in. And that's a copy of what the Russians were doing with their 6x4 bayonets, because their 6x3s had a bulbous bakelite piece on the bottom. When it was used as a hammer, it broke, so they upgraded that, and China copied their lesson. Now you'll see the wire cutter hole is in the fuller in the center of the blade. From what I've read, this is done to maximize strength, so there's no weak point in the blade when using the wire cutter. And I found references that referred to longitudinally reinforced blade tendons, and I can only assume that that means these little protrusions here instead of the profile of the blade. So I don't really understand what they were trying to do, but apparently there was some kind of plan in place. But the actual steel itself is a high carbon steel with apparently a hardness of 60 HRC. That doesn't mean anything to me. I'm not a metallurgy guy, but if anyone knows what that means, feel free to comment below. I could probably do a Google search, but I'm a bit lazy. And looking at the frog down here, it's got both. It's got two loops essentially. So it's got a small one designed for an inner waist belt, what they call it inner waist belt in China, which I assume is like a day-to-day barracks belt. And then a larger one that clips off, which is for an armed belt, which I assume is like their field gear. And as you can see, that just clips on and off. Not a terrible idea. But we'll jump into the actual blade itself. So as you can see, we've got our fuller running down the length. We've got a sharpened point on both sides. And that's really the only part of the bayonet that's sharpened. The sides down here aren't sharpened at all. It kind of reminds me of the Russian 6x5 bayonet a little bit. But we do have our nice big sawback. And you'll notice on this example, the sawback is facing down as opposed to the muzzle ring. Now, from what I read, the commercial ones had the sawback at the top, and the trials ones had the sawback at the bottom, but that's clearly incorrect because this is a commercial and has a sawback at the bottom, so it must come in either configuration. Moving down to the crossguard. The crossguard is really weak, in my opinion, a little bit flimsy. I think it's made of aluminium. It looks like it's got one rivet going through the tang, which is not terribly strong. In my opinion, the muzzle ring and the attachment device are the two weak points of this bayonet. The rest is really, really good. Then we have our some kind of plastic. I won't take a guess as to what kind, some kind of polymer, I assume. It's a two-piece molded plastic grip, and just a seam running down the center. I'm not sure how it's connected, whether it's glued on or whatever they've done. It's clearly not pinned, but it's on there somehow, and it's pretty sturdy and strong. I should point out that the Chinese ones have the textured square section here, while the Algerian ones have rounded edges or rounded corners. So that's one way to spot those. Then moving down to our pommel, we have a little hole there for some kind of, I don't know, lanyard or whatever you want to stick through there. The Russian ones have that hole for a wrist strap going up to the crossguard, but this doesn't have that. And then we've got a really weak spring like that. There is very little effort there at all pushing that across. We've just got a little ramp plug inside and our really shallow mortise, as you can see. So that and that are the two weak points of this bayonet. The rest are absolutely fantastic. Now, I don't know if the tang runs the full length of the blade and connects to the pommel. If it's interrupted, it might be, what's the correct word? Oh, my brain's not working. It might not complete a circuit between the blade and the handle, so you can cut electrified wire without electrocuting yourself, like the Russian ones. Anyway, we'll jump down to the scabbard. So we've got our little canvas frog here. You find the canvas ones on your commercial ones. They've got that like Chinese web gear olive drab color. And then all of our little buckles have like a little Chinese star on them, which is pretty cool. I previously showed you that that comes up for being able to remove it in the field, and they have the fixed internal one for barracks. And then we just have our nice little metal mouth. It's connected, so you can't unattach it here like the Russian ones. Plastic body with a drainage hole either side. And then we have a really nice little multi-tool down the bottom here. So we've got a can opener, we've got our wire cutter. Now this wire cutter feels really, really weak and flimsy compared to what other countries have, like the British L3A1, the USM9, even the AKs. They're all significantly stronger than this. This feels like it'll break. I don't know if that's just the commercial ones or if maybe the trials ones and the actual military ones were stronger, but it feels pretty flimsy. Anyway, on the other side, we've got a can opener just here. And I've also read that there is a screwdriver somewhere on here, but I don't have a clue what they're talking about. Maybe, I don't know. But that's really it for the construction. Another easy way to tell the trials and the Algerian ones from the commercials is the trials have a brighter, greenier green frog, and the Algerian ones have a leather frog. So that's how you spot those. And in terms of markings, there are no markings. The trials ones, I've never seen a photo, so I've seen a photo or two, but I haven't seen any markings on them. Commercials have no markings, and the Algerians will have serial numbers on both the handle and the scabbard electro-penciled in, and I haven't really seen any other markings than that. Anyway, guys, that's really all I've got to say about this bayonet here. I quite like it. It feels really, really good, and really the only letdown are the attachments that make it a bayonet. As a knife, I think it's absolutely fantastic. Anyway, guys, if I've missed anything or you have anything to comment, chuck it below. Love to hear from you, and thanks for watching.